Board ethics is an important topic that far too few people actually understand. Many believe it to be merely a sense of morality or doing what's right. And while that certainly plays a huge role, ethics encompasses more than that, including legal requirements that mandate how a board must act. As a member of your club's board, it is your responsibility to fully understand your role as an elected or appointed official. It may be a matter of fiduciary responsibility, legal responsibility, or moral responsibility. In this session, we'll dive further into what this means so that you can begin to explore your role as an ethical board member. Ethics can mean many different things to many different people. For our sake, we'll use the BBC's definition. Ethics is a system of moral principles that affect how people make decisions and lead their lives. Ethics includes things like our rights and responsibilities, how society decides right from wrong, and benchmark moral decisions like what is good and what is bad. Let's look at this a little further by comparing what ethics is and what it is not. First up, what it is. Ethics can provide a moral map. It is a philosophical framework we can use as humans to find our way through difficult issues and conversations. It can help separate emotions and gut reactions for our own ethical principles. Ethics can also be used to pinpoint a disagreement. It helps us to break down what we are really discussing to see if our argument is about the entire topic at hand or just a small part. This cuts down on the anger and emotion in many disagreements and can often lead to resolution or compromise. However, we must keep in mind that it is not always the case and should not rely on ethics to fully solve every problem. And finally, ethics provides the opportunity to explore several answers to a single question at hand. There are many times when a situation does not have a definitive right answer. When this moral ambiguity arises, we can rely on ethical discussions, rules, and customs to help guide us down the right path. On the other side of the coin, we should also consider what ethics is not. First and foremost, it is not a right answer. I use right in quotes here because it is subjective. Many ethical issues don't even have a single correct answer. Instead, as we noted before, ethics gives us a set of principles that can be applied at times to give those involved a variety of choices. In many of those instances, the best that ethics can hope to do is to diminish confusion and provide clarity. Ethics also means looking outside of ourselves. We must put the greater good, whether it is of an individual, an organization, or society, before our own self-interest if we want to act as an ethical board member and person. Within ethics, there is a set of duties that are used to determine whether a board member has acted properly. These typically have legal definitions at the state level and are known as the duties of care, of loyalty, and of obedience. The duty of care says that one has the duty to show reasonable care when making decisions as a steward of the organization. It is a level of competence that is expected of a board member, explains Board Source, a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting nonprofit boards. The duty of loyalty embodies our standard of faithfulness. When we accept a position on the board, we give an allegiance to making sound decisions for and on behalf of our clubs. This means that our actions and knowledge of confidential information cannot be used for personal gain. We must act in the best interest of the organization. And with the duty of obedience, it requires us to be faithful to our organization's mission. We must act in a way that is consistent with our club's central goals. This means maintaining trust in the use of donated funds, obeying laws, and following the organization's internal rules and regulations. Ethics helps us to understand our responsibilities to our club, both legally and morally. On the legal end, long-established nonprofit corporation law requires that board members must meet certain standards of conduct and attention in carrying out responsibilities to the organization, explains Board Source. Most states have statutes adopting some variation of the duties we just explained. These statutes are used in court to determine whether a board member has acted improperly. From a moral standpoint, most organizations also follow a code of ethics. This is a mutually agreed upon set of standards that shape our actions, behaviors, and decision-making. It differs from a value statement, which guides the organization in a more strategic and fundamental way. A code of ethics defines what ethical behavior means for an organization and clarifies accepted professional standards. So now that we have looked at what ethics means and our duties as a board member, Let's explore just a small handful of the ways we can practice ethical behavior as recommended by the American Society of Association Executives. First, and hopefully most obvious, we must show civility. When engaging in a difficult conversation, we need to listen to the views of other board members, even if everyone disagrees. Do your best to keep your conversation focused on the issues at hand and not the people commenting on them. Practice the golden rule by avoiding petty insulting and treating others as you want to be treated. Next, be inclusive. Make sure to show balance when putting together committee and task forces. ASAE recommends using thoughtful, committed members who represent gender, ethnic, racial, age, and orientation diversity. Avoid politics. Most of the time, they don't need to have a seat at the table when it comes to our club discussions. When it seems discussion might be veering off course and down a political road, simply change the subject. Your meeting leaders should be prepared to shut this type of conversation down. And most importantly, care about others. Our own self-interest isn't what's most important here. We must be concerned with the interests of others and think beyond ourselves. This is something we agree upon when we decide to serve. The organization comes first. As an ethical board member, ASAE also has some things we should not do. This begins with using ethics as a weapon. You can't use them to judge or attack others just because you disagree with their morals. Ethics is not a right to condemnation. Ethical leaders do not engage in gossip. We don't talk about other board members, sertomans, or staff behind their backs. We don't spread rumors. An ethical board member does not harass others. This includes intimidating or insulting or bullying other members. This seems like common sense to most adults, but you'd be surprised. It's important that we do not use our position of perceived power to act harmfully to others or to the organization. And as we hit on in the last slide, we don't make it political. This is mentioned twice because it has really become an issue in the nonprofit world in recent years. This can mean different things to different organizations. For some clubs, that means asking board members to keep politics off social media and out of meetings. For most, it includes asking everyone to agree upon keeping degrading comments out of in-person and virtual conversations. We should remember that things we say may be remembered forever and should act accordingly. Ethics can be a challenging and frustrating concept, but when handled correctly, it provides for civil discourse in your organization. It is up to you, as club board members, to exemplify this type of leadership. You can learn more about your role as a club leader by accessing trainings and other resources in our Member Center at sertoma.org. You can also join the conversation in our members-only group on Facebook through the link on your screen.